Winnie here now. So hey guys, thank you Phyllis for the invitation to come here. I'll talk a little bit about my experience with recommending opportunities based on the EP profile. I would talk about basically what I did and what I used to do as an MCVP when in Brazil, when I was an MCVP OG in Brazil. But also I'm gonna give some examples of things that my MCVPs are doing right now, since I'm regional manager here in Americas for GE. So can you go the next one? Yes, amazing. So basically, when I was MCVP, I try to work with an IR really focused, like per LC. So basically, I used to teach my commission, my LCVP, so they can only work with the suppliers that were aligned to their basically to their public. So for example, I don't know if there's someone who didn't have the availability to stay for 8 weeks, for example, in a country. I wouldn't recommend this person to sell a country where he only has 8 weeks opportunity. So everything was super aligned in terms of duration, in terms of the product, in terms of EP profile, and so on. I used to talk a lot about IR in all touch points that I had with my network. So basically, in functional tracks, there is always a session about IR that I would talk about the same topics. In my network calls, I will always bring updates about IR, and explain like if, and I don't know, if an entity was late in opening opportunities, how many opportunities this entity would open, so on. Also in my weekly emails that I used to send to my commission, I would always put IR updates. My ESTs, they had calls with the VPs, they also said about it. And also when I had one-on-ones with my LCVPs, I used to talk about IR and analyze the IR as well. Also, like every month, they will be aligned in terms of the touch point, in terms of the suppliers that they had to work in a month. So, for example, it was August, and I would say, guys, the focus of this month is Egypt. So you can only work with Egypt. Of course, they could also work with the others if they wanted, but the main focus was Egypt because of the amount of opportunities they had at that moment. And then September, okay, guys. So now it's September. Now there are other suppliers that have opportunities for us. So maybe you can work now with Mexico, with Egypt, and with this supplier. So I was trying to be really specific with them. And I think if I had to sum up, like everything was based and on the LC persona and how was this persona was aligned to the opportunities in terms of duration, in terms of background, in terms of sub-product, in terms of requirement, in terms of realization date, and the timeline. So for example, I don't know, let's say that an LC has this persona number one, and the persona studies in this university, studies advertisement, can stay abroad for 8 weeks. It's upper middle class, has a lot of hobbies, and can only travel in December and July. So based on this profile, based on the background, based on the 8 weeks that the person can travel, based on the vacation in December and July, we would recommend the person to go to either Egypt or either Mexico because it was aligned to the public, to the profile of this persona. Because maybe, I don't know, if the person doesn't have like 12 weeks to stay abroad, maybe it wouldn't be a good option to go to a country where it would only have 12-week opportunities. Or for example, I don't know, if they would only work with Mexico and Egypt, I would recommend also the B2C or the VP marketing to only make attraction focus on this country and not like a general one. So I think if I had to sum up, I would basically say that it was everything super aligned between persona and suppliers kind of opportunities they had. And also I put some examples. Can you go to the next one, please? Of things that I used to do with my network. Basically, these are screenshots of some calls I had with functional tracks we had with my VPs to explain them about IR. So, for example, I would say, I don't know, about Greece. The duration of opportunities from 8 to 10 weeks. The process time is 4 to 5 days. These are the focus of products. This is the profile needed, and some attention points. So, for example, I wouldn't recommend everyone to work with Greece, for example, because not everyone had profiles with advanced English, for example, or professional experience. And the same thing for all the suppliers. Also, this slide about timeline, I used to put like, okay, so in August, you should work with Egypt because it's the country that has most of the opportunities open. And in September, you can work with the others. In October, you can work with this. So they could also focus their attraction based on the timeline that the suppliers had of opportunities opened. And basically, this is what I did as an MC. But as a regional manager now with my MCVPs, something that they are doing now that I think it's pretty cool, that I will show you. Can you go the next one, please? Okay. So basically, they are being much more controlling about each LC cooperation. So they are like, okay, this LC can work with this and this suppliers, and also they are doing their supply demand plan based on the LC's historical needs and public. So I put some examples here of what they are doing. So first, they put all the suppliers that are gonna work in the semester, and they put the contribution and the goal with each IR partner for the semester and the historical numbers from the previous semester. Then, if you can go the other one, then the part two, basically, they said, okay, now that I have my suppliers, I'm gonna plan like with each LC. No, sorry, with each supplier, my LC is gonna work with. So this LC is gonna work only with Brazil, Mexico, and Costa Rica, or this LC is gonna work only with Brazil and Egypt and things like that, based on the historical. Then they would analyze the part three. Okay, then they would analyze like the contribution from the previous semester. So they analyzed that this LC had a 57 contribution with Brazil, Mexico, and Egypt. With Brazil, 22 with Mexico, and 11 with Egypt. And they would do this for all the LCs so they can have like a better understanding of historical and how much they worked with each of the suppliers. Then, based on the contribution, from the previous semester, they would plan the contribution for the next semester, for this semester. So based on the part two, like the one that they said, okay, this LC is gonna work with this supplier. They put exactly how much do they want each LC to deliver with each one of the suppliers. And then finally, the last part that they do, that they did some of them, is okay. So based on the contribution and based on the LC's goal that they had it, they would basically calculate how much does it mean in terms of goals, in terms of absolute numbers. So they would say, okay, this LC is gonna work with Brazil with 20 approvals. This LC is gonna work with Egypt with 4 approvals, and so on. And then they would downscale this information to the LCPs, not of course like in a direct way, like, okay, you have to do this goal with the LC, no, with the supplier, no, that's not it. But they would try to give the instructions for the LCs to work basically this amount with each one of the suppliers. So it will be more focused on the LC's public and so on. So the whole IR would be better. And this is something they're doing now. This is just an example from one of my MCVPs OG from Peru. But basically, like some of my MCPs, they're doing the same, and I think it's really, really, really helping them. I have this tool because this is screenshots from one tool they are doing. So if you want, I can share with you, and also have some good materials about like how can they improve their IR and how can they create their sales speech based on the persona and based on the IR. I will share everything with Philia so she can share with you guys. But yeah, but this is it basically what I did as an MC and what my MCVPs are doing right now. Yes, and if you have any questions, I'm in your group, so you can approach me there. You have my WhatsApp. But if you want to send me an email, message, whatever, like feel 100% free to approach me. And thank you so much.